Hi. Binge Diaries here. Today, I am going to explain the American, sci-fi, adventure, mystery film called Prometheus. Spoilers ahead. Watch out and take care. The movie starts with a spaceship hovering over a waterfall as a being who looks like a man walks towards to the edge of the water. The place is Earth before human beings existed on it. The being is called an engineer. He looks at the ship, then places down a bowl. He takes his robe off, picks up the contents of the bowl, then takes a sip as he watches the spaceship hover away into the atmosphere. Suddenly, he is struck by a sharp pain and weird black veins start forming in his skin. The black matter penetrates his entire body and even affects his DNA. The being starts disintegrating and his body parts can be seen falling off as he shouts in pure agony. In all the chaos, he slips and falls into the waterfall and his body dissolves into the water. In the year 2089, a woman is digging into a wall. Her name is Dr. Elizabeth Shaw. She asks for Dr. Holloway as she gets happy when she sees what is in the wall. 3 archaeologists are seen in a scene and Dr. Holloway tells them to quickly go and see what she has discovered. They make the crack bigger and they enter a cave. They shine a torch inside the cave and Dr. Holloway says that it dates back at least 35,000 years. They become amazed when they see markings of people and animals on the walls of the cave, and decide that those who left the markings want the archaeologists to find them. Out in space, another spaceship is seen traveling. The name of the ship is Prometheus. Inside, a man named David is seen walking towards a pod to monitor it, and the screen on the pod shows the name of the woman as Dr. Elizabeth Shaw. The man can see the woman's dreams and, in the dream, she is speaking with her father about whether heaven exists. The man then walks away into other rooms and he tries to keep himself busy and goes on with his normal daily routines like playing basketball while riding a bike, and learning a really difficult language. Suddenly, the ship signals that they have arrived at their destination. A planet with a ring is seen in the distance and the ship heads towards it. David then goes to check on one of the pods and notices that occupant has left. He finds a woman having a workout. Her name is Miss Vickers. He tells her that she has been asleep for 2 years while they've been traveling. She tells the man to go wake the others up from their pods, and each one has a weird reaction from the long sleep upon waking up. While crew members are having a meal, a man named Milburn tries to make friends with a man called Fifield but gets shot down. They go to another room for a briefing and Miss Vickers shows them a presentation from Wayland Corporations. In the presentation, a man called Peter Wayland introduces himself as their employer, and the date of the recording was in June of 2091, and that he is long dead by the time they see the presentation. He tells them that David is not human, but is a robot and is his creation. He calls Dr. Holloway and Dr. Shaw forward to continue with the presentation. They are the archaeologists in charge of the expedition. They show images of archaeological digs from all over Earth discovered from different centuries, and strangely enough each one had pictures showing men worshipping giant beings pointing to the stars, that there was no way those primitive civilizations could have known about the same galactic system so far away from Earth, and that they had just arrived at the only planet capable of life in that system. They tell the crew that they think the map they found in the cave is an invitation from engineers and that they created humanity. Miss Vickers calls Dr. Holloway and Dr. Shaw to her quarters. She tells them that if there in fact are these beings called engineers down in the planet, that they won't engage them but report back to her. Back in the control room, the captain signals Mr. Revell and Mr. Chance to take the ship down into the planet and tells the other crew to brace for entry. They learn that CO2 is over 3% and that they can't navigate the planet without a suit. As the ship flies over the planet, they can't find any sign of life. Dr. Holloway spots a structure in the distance and tells the captain to steer the ship towards it. Then the ship touches down safely on the planet. Dr. Holloway tells the captain that he needs the survey team to suit up so that they can go exploring immediately. As the crew is preparing to leave the ship, Dr. Shaw tells Jackson not to carry in weapons. Dr. Holloway wonders why David wears a suit, seeing that he is not human and doesn't need to breathe, and David says that he was designed to closely resemble a human, including their behavior. The ship eventually opens its ramp and they exit. Along the way, Dr. Holloway asks if the structure they had seen is natural or not, and he tells him that he only knows that the structure is hollow. The crew eventually arrives at the structure and are amazed by the scene. They walk towards it and go inside the structure through a hole. Dr. Holloway asks Mr. Fifield the grid of the structure, so he takes out his drones, which he calls pups, to go and map the entire structure, and the pups send the data back to the ship. As they go deeper and deeper into the caves, they come to a spot with stalagmites, and they figure out that there is something manufacturing breathable air down there, and that it is only toxic outside and the air is completely breathable inside, even cleaner than Earth's air. Dr. Holloway decides to remove his headgear, even after a lot of protests from the other members. He takes a deep breath, and when the others see that nothing happens to him, they also take out theirs. As they walk further into the caves, They realize that the temperature is -12 degrees but the water isn't freezing. David comes across a slimy substance on the wall and he starts pushing holes on the wall, and this makes a hologram to show throughout the cave. They see images of people running inside the cave. When the crew see this, they quickly run towards the images in order to understand the situation. The final image shows a man decapitated by a door, and when they investigate further, they find the body of a man decapitated at the door. They realize that the hologram is a recording of the past. David sees carvings on the door and he says that he might be able to translate what is written on it. Fifield decides that he has had enough excitement for the day and decides to leave. He says that he's just a geologist who loves rocks, and has nothing to contribute in the gigantic dead body arena. Fifield incites Milburn and he also decides to leave. Dr. Shaw inserts a carbon reader into the dead body and they learn that it has been dead for about 2,000 years. Meanwhile, David succeeds in opening the door and they see the decapitated head on the other side of the door, and it doesn't look human. They are amazed at how well it has stayed preserved. On the far end of the room, there is a giant head carving that looks human. As they walk inside the room, small worms crawl out of the ground. All around them are vases and there is organic liquid oozing out of them. They notice the murals on the wall changing because they've affected the atmosphere in the room, so they decide to leave. Before they leave, they run towards the decapitated head to carry it in a bag. Meanwhile, at the ship, they notice a storm incoming and they signal the crew to start heading back, and that they'll be closing the ship's doors in 15 minutes, with or without them. David picks up one of the vases as they start leaving the caves. The crew gets into their vehicles and start driving towards the ship, with a giant storm hot on their tails. Just when they're entering the ship, the head rolls off one of the vehicles and Dr. Shaw runs towards it to save it. She gets swept away by the storm and gets hurt. Seeing this, Dr. Holloway drives away to go save her. He gets to her but the vehicle gets swept away. The storm is so strong that it carries Dr. Shaw off the ground as Dr. Holloway grabs onto her. David, however, tethers himself to the ship and comes to rescue them. He ties his rope on both of them and reels them all back into the ship. The captain asks them where Milburn and Fifield are and they realize that they aren't there, even though they left earlier. The both of them are shown still trying to navigate the caves, even passing through the same place twice. The captain tells them that with the harsh conditions, they wouldn't be able to get to them and tells them to stay warm till the storm passes. Back in the ship, they start analyzing the head. They realize that it isn't an exoskeleton, but a kind of helmet. They lift the top off and find a head inside. They decide to trick the cells in the head into thinking they're still alive, so they insert a device into the side of the head. However, they lose control and the head starts going crazy and smells so bad. The head eventually explodes and they decide to take a sample. Back at the lab, Dr. Shaw analyzes the DNA of the head and finds it to match that of humans. David then goes to the vase and takes out a slimy object, breaks it and examines the black liquid that was inside. He then goes to have a conversation with Dr. Holloway and dips the black liquid into his drink. Back at the caves, Milburn and Fifield find a pile of dead bodies. They end up in the room that had the vases and they decide to hang out there. Suddenly, the black liquid starts flowing on the ground and a creature appears. Milburn is mesmerized by it and tries to touch it, but it bites his hand and wraps tightly around his hand and starts breaking his arm. Milburn screams in pure agony and tells Fifield to cut it off. Fifield cuts the creature and it sprays acid on his face. The creature burrows deeper into Milburn's suit and goes in his mouth, while Fifield's face burns beyond recognition. In the morning, Dr. Holloway wakes up feeling a bit weird and sees something wriggling in his eye. The captain wakes Shaw up and they assemble a team to go search for Milburn and Fifield. They get in the vehicle and head out into the caves and they start searching. David takes a separate route and Miss Vickers asks him to uplink his feed to her room so she can see what he sees. He walks through a tunnel and finds a missing pup waiting at a door. He goes in and finds thousands of vases stacked in a room. He goes through another door and turns off his camera before Miss Vickers sees anything. In the other group, Dr. Holloway trips and his condition is noticeably worse, but he says he is fine. They go into the room that had the vases and they are oozing a lot more than the first time. They find the bodies of Milburn and Fifield. Meanwhile, Dr. Holloway gets too sick to continue and he falls down. Suddenly, the creature that bit Milburn jumps out of his body and runs off. Seeing all these events, the group all hurry out of the room with Dr. Holloway being carried. At the same time, David finds what looks like a control room. He sits on a chair and sees a hologram of the engineers at work and is amazed by what the engineers were capable of. When the hologram stops, he sees a pod with an engineer inside who is still alive and in hypersleep. When the other group gets to the door of the ship, Dr. Holloway's condition is really bad. They tell Miss Vickers to open the door. She goes and suits up, then walks out the door with a flamethrower in her hand and refuses to let the sick man on board. They argue about letting him on the ship so they can treat him. Dr. Holloway tells Dr. Shaw that he loves her, then chooses to sacrifice himself, and tells Miss Vickers to burn him, so she does. Dr. Shaw cries when she sees this happen to her boyfriend. Later, David does an exam on Dr. Shaw to check for contamination, and he finds out that she's 3 months pregnant. She says that it's impossible because she was intimate with Dr. Holloway only 10 hours ago. David tells her that it doesn't look like a normal pregnancy, so she asks to see the it and wants it removed since it is not human. David refuses and sedates her. Later, when the others come to take her away, she pretends to be asleep then fights her way out of that room. She makes her way to a room with a pod capable of surgery. She injects herself for the pain then gets into the pod. Whatever is inside her can be seen starting to move inside her body. The pod then begins the surgical procedure. It cuts her open and the pain becomes too much to handle, so she injects more pain meds. The pod then pulls out the creature that was inside her. She wants it out of her so bad that she cuts the umbilical cord with her bare hands. The creature starts coming to life as the pod closes her open wound. She wiggles herself out of the pod then closes the pod with the creature inside, then leaves the room. Meanwhile, in the control room, the captain notices something outside. Fifield's camera showed that he is just outside the ship, so he sends someone to investigate. They open the door and see Fifield's body outside. But something is not right. Fifield stands up then hits him. He has turned into a monster. He starts fighting and killing the others. They try to stop him from getting in, but are struggling cause he's too strong. They run him over with their truck, set him on fire, and shoot him, and this stops him eventually. Meanwhile, Dr. Shaw wobbles into a room then collapses at the door. The others, including David, see her and go help her. In the room, she sees Peter Wayland, the man who was supposed to be dead, sitting across the room. He had put himself to sleep and was in the ship the whole time. He says that he wants to go see the remaining engineer so that he can be saved from death. Dr. Shaw tells him that they should leave the planet, but he refuses because they're so close to answering mankind's most meaningful questions, that they must find out all they can from the engineers before they leave. Dr. Shaw goes back to her room and has decided she wants to know about the engineer, so she dresses up. The captain walks into her room and tells her that this isn't the engineer's home. Those creatures were their military weapons but they turned on them and killed them all. As Peter Wayland readies himself to leave, they fix him up with a device that can help him walk. They all get in a truck and leave for the caves. David leads them to the bridge. Back at the ship, they assemble all the data of the caves they had, and they realize that the caves form a ship. Back at the bridge, David tells them that he figured out that the engineers were about to leave for Earth, before things went south for them. They get to the engineer's pod, then David opens it up and the engineer wakes up. Dr. Shaw wants them to find out why they made the creatures but they hit her to stop her from talking. David now starts speaking to the engineer in their language but the engineer picks him up then rips his head off. A fight breaks out and Peter Wayland passes away. The engineer starts to turn on the ship as Dr. Shaw runs to get away from the engineer's ship. The engineer sits in his chair and readies himself to leave. Meanwhile, Dr. Shaw is running on the surface but the entire engineer's ship is so massive that it covers the entire surface she's running on. She calls Prometheus and tells them that they have to stop the engineer's ship from leaving, that if they don't stop it, Earth is their destination and the engineers will destroy it with the creatures in the vases. The captain tells his crew to warm up the ion propulsion, that doing so will turn Prometheus to a bullet. Miss Vickers protests that their ship isn't designed for war, but the captain says he will eject her into a life support module on the surface of the planet that will give her 2 years of life. The captain tells his crew to leave and he can handle everything himself, but they refuse to leave and want to support him. The captain releases the life support module and Miss Vickers quickly suits up as the timer counts 10 seconds remaining to eject. She ejects successfully on the surface of the planet. Meanwhile, Prometheus propels itself towards the engineer's ship and collides with it before it leaves the atmosphere causing a huge explosion. The engineer's ship comes falling down on the surface. Seeing this, both Dr. Shaw and Miss Vickers run for their lives to avoid getting crushed by the falling ship. Dr. Shaw falls down but manages to roll away to avoid getting crushed. Miss Vickers also falls down but she gets crushed. The ship stops rolling then starts falling the other way towards Dr. Shaw. But before she gets crushed, she is saved by a piece of rock and the ship barely misses her. She is woken up by her suit signaling her that she has 2 minutes of oxygen remaining. She crawls out then runs towards the life support module. She closes the door behind her then starts picking up cans of food. She is startled by a noise, so she picks up an axe and goes to investigate. She peeks through the door and sees the creature that came from her womb now as a huge monster. David's head signals her that the engineer is coming for her. The engineer runs towards her so she traps him by the door then slightly opens it so the monster grabs him. She grabs her helmet then runs out of the module as the monster tries to eat the engineer and it eventually eats him up. Dr. Shaw now lay on the ground outside looking defeated. David calls her and tells her to go help him because there are many other ships and that he can operate them. She gets on a vehicle and drives to go where David is. As she helps David, she decides she doesn't want to go to Earth but where the engineers came from. to know why they created humans then tried to destroy them. She carries David into the vehicle and they find the ship, then she flies off to go searching. She leaves a message transmission that anybody who may come searching for Prometheus should not do so. Back at the life support module, the engineer's body rips open and a creature crawls out of his insides. Subscribe for more videos like this, turn on the notification, and leave a like to help the channel out. Thanks for watching.